Yes, Padmaji. Today let us chant and contemplate on Yanti Deva Vrata.
Yes, sir. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitrunyanti Pitruvrataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajinopi Mam.
Please chant again.
Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitrunyanti Pitruvrataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Madhyajinopi Mam. Yanti is go, Deva Vrata, worshippers of Devas, Devan, to the Devas, Pitrun, to the ancestors, Yanti, go, Pitruvrataha, worshippers of Pitrus, Bhutani, to the Bhutas, Yanti, go, Bhuteja, worshippers of Bhutas, Yanti, go, Madhyajinaha, my worshippers, Api, also, Mam, to me. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me.
Thank you, Padmaji. So Sri Krishna is talking about life and death here. What kind of form that is necessary for you? He's granting us open offer. Here is the menu, here is the buffet. You pick what you want. What is that Krishna is pointing at here? Is it only for the next life? Does it have any application to your today's life?
Is he saying don't go for all superstitious belief?
Is he saying don't go for superstitious? He's not saying superstitious. I mean, your ancestors were not superstitious in the sense that, you did have ancestors and that's why your current form has come.
And
She's
the
not talking about
question-
superstition.
No, I'm asking the question, sir. Is he talking about don't get into all the superstition, just believe in me?
He's not saying that.
Okay.
See, you know for a fact that there are Pitrus, so that is how the family lineage is going on.
Ghosts and the spirits he's talking about. So that's where I felt superstition.
Ghosts and spirits are also there. How do you know they're not there? So this is an area where, you look around, Shubhaji, how many ghosts, people walk like ghosts only, no?
Yeah, you may see me as a ghost also.
So there are things that we have seen, some things that we have not seen. But purely from a standpoint of let's say various stories you've heard and various kinds of incidents you may be aware of, there are different levels at which life exists. Apart from the human level, which is clearly can be seen by the five senses, there are different levels at which existence operates. Whether ghosts or spirits are troublesome or not, that is the common story. That's a separate thing. when you are Vishwamitra, or when you are a friend of the universe, ghosts and spirits are also your friends.
I would say that like it's about he's turning our focus on where to spend our time and effort. Like, and he's always pushing for the highest level. The lower levels may be easier to remain to get, but like have the viveka to identify and move up to the highest.
Excellent.
And, even with the things that give satisfaction, right? The lower ones quickly give, but with lesser efforts, and accordingly, like they remain for a shorter time. Yeah, I think that's how I would say.
He may not be talking about the effort. Effort may be, for example, to be, let's say, to worship the ancestors. You may still have to put that kind of effort, which may be equivalent of putting the effort to worship the demigods. Worship means what? First, let's understand the word worship. What does it mean? What does it really mean? Worshipping means what? What do you understand by worship?
The way I see is like spending too much time thinking about that same entity.
Excellent.
Right.
So there is an external worship, which is a physical level. Oh, I did the puja, I did the Mangalarati, I did the Snanam, all this is external, physical, which can be seen. But there's a mental worship going on.
Yeah.
So more than the physical worship, the mental worship is far more important. Meaning, what you're worshipping in the mind is far more important. So there was once one quote, have Ananya Bhakti. And there was a question, oh, Bhakti is so difficult. No, not at all. Bhakti is your second nature. Please look at it. Bhakti is so easy for you. Object of the Bhakti is the only choice you need to make properly. Bhakti on wife, Bhakti on husband, Bhakti on money, Bhakti on status, Bhakti on gold. I love gold, I want more gold. That is also worship. Mentally, constantly thinking about it, wanting it, feeling for, I need it. That is also worship. The object of the worship there, the object that you want is an object that changes. So Krishna is drawing our attention to all these other lokas. So let's look at it from two standpoints. One is when we are living, and the so-called the death and the next life. So this shloka can be seen in terms of, oh, this is all about afterlife. In the afterlife, there is, you take birth in that loka towards which you have aimed. So essentially, Sri Krishna is drawing our attention to any other loka is a temporal, meaning it is subject to birth and death. Any other loka is subject to birth and death. Demigods means those who are on the path of self-realization, but who have not completely realized yet. So in that loka, also there is a birth. There may be more sukha, or there may be more opportunities for sadhana, but that is also temporal. So there is a birth and there is a death. Yes, Padmaji.
Sir, by demigods, like who are exactly the demigods? Will they mean like the Panchabhutas and all, because they are also devas? So do they fall under the category of demigods?
So this one we need to refer to in a cultural context. So for example, Kshudra Devata would be the appropriate word if you have to use. So Kshudra Devata. Kshudra means that Devata which, let's say, brings out certain of your demonic qualities. For example, you may have seen in many of the places, they have cutting some animal and offering it as a offering. And they say that this is what our Devi or our Devata, whatever the form. Because see, all the forms lead to the ultimate only. But the clarity and the intention with which that form is being worshipped matters a lot. So when Shri Krishna says demigod, he is not trying to put down the form. He is pointing to our mind with what feeling, with what intention, with what understanding am I doing what I'm doing. So that's why one is in terms of the afterlife. If the clarity hasn't yet come in this life, what is the form taken in the next life? Towards that is giving some direction. It depends upon the object of your worship, depends upon the focus of your worship. What have you been seeking all through your life? And what have you created impressions in your mind? That only carries you forward. At the end of the day, where is a demigod? Where is an ancestor? Where are all these spirits? In your mind, as impressions. So depending upon the nature of the impressions in your mind, you will be carried into that realm. Because life is not a fixed, bounded entity. What happens in life is not, it is not like a well-bounded and fixed, okay, this is the frame. From A, you go to B. What happens next in your life is very much what is the nature of the intentions that you're carrying. That is why, you know, this picture of Vivekananda, and one of his most famous quotes, "You are the creator of your destiny." So to the question about, is there a predetermined destiny or you are creating, we need to understand the destiny clearly. One is based on whatever has been done, that will bear fruit. So in that way, it is predetermined. Not that the divine will keep an account and says that, okay, now you did that, so therefore you suffer this. Not in that way. It is not like a punishment kind of a mode. Until that clarity emerges, until that right understanding emerges, whatever you do, you start facing the consequences of it, and through that you learn. It's a learning process. So whatever I've done is what bears fruits now. In that way, it is predestined. So prarabdha karma has to come to bear fruits. Then what Vivekananda is essentially saying is, but what you are doing now, you have complete choice. You can do with an attitude of I am doing and I need the fruit, so you will be bound. When you do what you're doing now with the yagna bhava, with an attitude of offering, then you are free from the fruit of that action. No more you're going to be accumulating. The debt you have accumulated will come true, will have to be repaid. The debt you have accumulated has to be paid. How to pay the debt that I have accumulated? Through seva, satsanga, sadguru. That is how we are repaying the debt. So the debt aspect has to be taken care. But am I creating a debt now? That you have control. How? By doing whatever you're doing with a yagna bhava, for the benefit of the other being. That slowly removes the impressions in the chitta. At the end of the day, the whole game is because of the deeper impressions in the mind, chitta. Based on the impressions, various tendencies develop. So the tendency to worship a demigod, or the tendency to run behind money, women, power, or the tendency to do whatever you do in life, is all because of the impressions that are deeply impregnated in the mind. So when Sri Krishna says, those who worship me, meaning what? He has given clearly what is worshipping him means. Live your life with a yagna bhava. Realize that I am the ultimate. Meaning what? Like here, that's why the picture of the 3 glasses with water. Now, is the water polluted? When you see these glasses, is the water polluted? When you look at this picture, it definitely feels so. Arey yaar, look at this. This is dirty water. This is less dirty. Oh, this is clean water. Water is not dirty. It appears to be dirty. Why is this example relevant to this? To realize that this is your true nature, pure being. But that realization occurs only when the mind is free of all the impressions. When the mind still has its own vasanas, then the attitude of life will be based on the vasanas of the mind. So that's why Sri Krishna again and again is reminding us, those who worship me, those who realize me, those who are in my path. So he's constantly talking about him, him, him. Not about the Krishna, the form, but about the qualities of the life in which Krishna led the life. The qualities of the divine beings. That's what is constantly again and again reminding us. Those who worship me. So the ones who realize that life is about service, they live with the attitude of Yagna Bhava, the Pancha Mahayagnas. So you live life like that, then your mind will be purified of its impressions, of its latent tendencies. Then naturally you will realize the divine within you. And then you will have the choice. So there is a wonderful little discussion I was part of yesterday with Prabhuji. So there is this book in Tibet, the Book of the Dead. So the moment after the physical, let's say, death, and before what happens to that in that being, there is a transition period. In the transition period, the mind is completely free. And the mind can take the right decision only if its latent impressions have been cleared and if the latent impressions have got clarified. Otherwise, based on the tendency of the mind, the movement will occur. The transition will occur. So Prabhuji was giving many examples. One example was, there was a neighbor of his who at his deathbed invited Prabhuji to be with him, because it is believed that having a realized being sit next to you at the time of your death is auspicious. It is as auspicious as long as you are in tune with the realized being's teachings. So what Prabhuji was saying is, at the moment of the death, the feeling in that dead person was, I have to take rebirth as a son in my son's family, as a child in my son's family. Though the realized being's teaching was, why do you want to do that? What is that you want to fulfill? So there is a birth you can take based on the tendencies, or a fully conscious birth for the benefit of others. So the right choices can be made only when the mind is trained. That's why Abhyasa Yoga, Krishna has said about Abhyasa Yoga, when you don't know something, you practice and you become master in it. So here, he's again calling for the same thing. Worshipping me means what? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa, for clarifying the intellect. Seva, Satsanga, for purifying the emotions. Only with that can the right decisions be made, whether at the time of death or when you're living. So this shloka is not only about death and afterlife. It's as much about right now how you are living. Right now, what choices are you making? Right now, what is your focus? Is this all making sense? Any other points from Shubhaji, Shilpakalaji?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right. Padmaji, Saramanji, anything you want to say or ask?
Yeah, this is well believed one in our families too, that what you keep thinking or longing for, like that basically drives you for next lives, right? It's that unfulfilled or lack feeling that ignorance drives for next life again and again, until you've, so that is the ignorance, that there is a lack, right? And those who have that feeling of the completeness, that's the highest level where they constantly remember and be with Krishna, and like they don't they get out of this cycle. And yeah, this I think maybe Guruji gave the stories that that's why they name the children with God names, but then like a businessman who is always thinking about money,
Yeah.
Right at the end, and towards the end, like he still calls the son, but then like he immediately switches to the business, right?
Yes.
Right. So it's about like what keeps running all the time.
Correct.
I've seen that like when you get up in the morning, I have tried to notice my thoughts. It drifts towards certain things.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So uh, I know that like I'm spending a lot of time here, but then like there are certain things my mind keeps drifting towards, and uh, I think those vasanas are too strong, and I think I'm still uh, trying to figure out myself to.
That is why Krishna gives us a very simple, with this same glass analogy, he gives us a very simple path. For example, if a glass of water is like this, and if you cannot just throw it out, see, how can you throw out the mind? With a glass of water, you can throw it out and fill. But how can you clean this glass without having to throw? How can you clean this glass of water without throwing it out?
Let it stay there for some time. It will settle down.
It will settle down. But let's say you want to clean it. You want to remove it. You want it to be, like this last glass.
Filter out.
No, you cannot filter. So here, the mind, you cannot filter the mind. See, there's no filter for the mind. Think of it like in the terms of the mind. If the mind has a lot of impressions, how do you clean that?
This too shall pass.
Huh?
This
Correct.
too shall pass.
Correct. That's all correct. That's also right. This too shall pass. But the impression is still there. The tendency is still there. It's hidden. So how do you erase that tendency, or how do you come out of that tendency? How do you remove that impressions? Keep pouring clean water. Keep pouring clean water. At one time, it will be so much of pure water that it will overflow and it will look like this. That's all it is. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa. Sadguru, Seva, Satsanga. That's why Krishna again and again here is pointing to us that role model, a realized being, pointing to us how the mind catches and becomes a slave of the world, and again showing us direction of how you can escape. So he's showing the ideal goalpost, or ideal being as a template for us, as a role model for us, as a somebody to look up to. That's the first thing that he has done. And he has taught us very clearly that you are that only. But then you are that only has to become a deep, inner, living clarity, not an idea. So there he says only two reasons. One, what you're doing now, with what attitude you are doing, that is the one which catches you. Second, there are latent impressions in the mind based on whatever you've done earlier. With the right clarity emerging in you, you can escape from what you're doing from now onwards. But what about the ones that you've done earlier? That is why again and again that impressions come up and they tend to pull us in some direction. And that's why again and again we need that clarity. Again and again we need to go back. So that's why the pendulum idea. Mind is like a pendulum. It keeps swinging. But as the clarity starts coming, it's like that, it's slowing down. But still there are swings. Maybe now the swings are minor. Maybe with the gnana that we are receiving, now it is minor. But still there are swings. And ultimately it has to become stable. It has become still.
I think that is why satsanga and hearing again and again is very, very important.
Yeah. Any other points, Padmaji? Anything else you would like to share?
No, sir. I was just contemplating like what is worship when you asked. So I think worshipping, like you mentioned, it is at various levels. What is our desire, where we want to go, is where it will take us, and that is where maximum of our energy is also channeled, I feel. So what we give importance to and what is keeping us focused in our mind is where our energy and everything is directed. So I think this shloka essentially guides us as to where we have to put that attention and where our worship should be, so
Yeah.
that we can escape this cycle of birth and death and be with him only. So I think it is pointing to the most supreme, where we have to worship.
And taken to our day-to-day life, what our focus is. There are so many distractions. Among them, where we keep our attention.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. That I think that is very evident in our day-to-day things. Like what we focus on also magnifies to a large extent in our mind.
Yeah.
For example, if there is some incident which has disturbed us, the whole day we can just be thinking about it, no matter what we do. So I think that is where it is important.
Excellent. Yeah.
One needs to be a strong-willed, strong character to stay in a path to progress. When we are living in a when our senses are always tuned outside,
True.
right? It just like carries one away. Like unless you are living in the community of same interested individuals, here like you are not that way. You are living in the real world where like hundreds of things keep happening, and it just like takes you off, and then like you have to fight back to come to the path. Right, so I feel like there needs to be like very strong-willed. Otherwise, if you are weak, that's it. But like mentally, I'm saying like I want it, but like I don't want to fight it like this every day. Like everybody is going, let me also just go in the direction of the wind, right? So that's why I said that effort thing I brought up. Right, we need to keep coming back.
Yeah.
Because of people are like we are in this world where like there are people worshiping different things around you, and like there is a fanfare going on, there's a school thing going on.
Yeah.
Right, at the end of the day, like it's about like, what did I do? Here is what I did.
Yeah. That's why Vedavyasa Maharshi has given us a beautiful picture in the Kurukshetra. The Pandavas had 7 Akshohini. Okay. And the Kauravas had 11 Akshohini. Now, we all know through repetitive hearing in the Mahabharata, Pandavas were on the side of the Dharma. Kauravas were on the side of the Adharma. All the other kings also apparently knew. But still, 11 Akshohini means majority was on their side.
Yeah.
Minority was here.
Yeah.
It is like initially to go against the tendency of the mind. Let me just sleep another half an hour in this cold. Why should I wake up? It's a tendency of the mind. Let me just, eat a little bit more. What is there? let me just watch this movie, let me just go, let me just be with my friends, let me socialize, let me, all these little things. They're all again, Kauravas and Pandavas is not necessarily a big war has to happen. He said at this very simple level. Kauravas are, all these Vishaya Vasanas,
Yeah.
which want to pull us out. Nothing wrong with the world. Nothing wrong with eating pani puri, bel puri, or socializing with friends. But when the mind is not yet evolved, then the mind can become fixed in that. So therefore, we need to be clear. So Kamala, the lotus, is being in the world, but not of the world. So it is not the distractions around me that actually pull me away. It is how stable I have become inside. Then any activity will not bind me. So it is not the nature of the activity. You all may know the wonderful story that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says. Apparently, there was a house of a prostitute, and next to it there was a house of a sadhu. And the sadhu used to always tell her, look, what you're doing is sin. What you're doing is sin. And every day, he will keep stones in front of her house, which will be the number of customers that have visited her. And every day she would open and she will, in her heart, she will weep. Oh God, I know nothing better. I don't know how else to live, but you are my only savior. So apparently the day of death came, and both of them apparently died the same day. There was a huge procession for the sadhu, and there was not even a dog asking for this lady. Some kind person cremated her. And apparently both of them ended up in the heaven. And the sadhu was flabbergasted. How come this lady is here? All she did was, all through her life, was sin. And then apparently the Chitragupta opened the book and said, oh, now you have to go to hell. Not really, wrong entry to heaven, go to hell. That's why, in some joke, it is said that it is better to go and sit in a bar and think about God than be in the temple and think about the bar. So it's not the activity. It's the inner feeling, inner intention. So that's why Krishna says, do whatever you're doing as a yajna bhava, as an offering. Sometimes you may not have a choice. You may not have a choice, but be aware of what you're doing and do it as an offering. Then even in doing, you're completely free. All right. So shall we end our contemplation?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.